Hello and welcome to the TheHagwon After Hours. We are back in the doldrums. We are back at the actual office.
Yes.
Because we're here to talk about cramming.
We're back in the dungeon. We're back in the dungeon.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But for a good reason. The SAT is in about a week.
Yep.
I'm sure you guys are quite stressed. The ones who are studying diligently, still just as stressed as those who haven't. But we're here today for everybody because we have a little product that we've been working on.
We have a brand new study plan that's going live on TheHagwon.com called the Lightning Round, which is for exactly this time period, the week before the SAT. You need a little last minute study session, last minute study plan. Whether you have been studying or you haven't, it should serve everyone. And we have a lot of new features coming along with it, which is really, really exciting.
And this video is going to, of course we're promoting it, we have a bottom line, but we want to give people who perhaps are looking for the final push, or maybe more saliently, haven't done all too much because life gets in the way.
Sometimes, it's one of those things, especially in the fall semester, you studied in the summer and you thought August was a little too soon, so you signed up for October thinking, early bit in the fall semester, I'll have time to study. But with extracurriculars, and then you start new classes, maybe you started AP or IB classes, life kind of gets you, you didn't have enough time to study, and suddenly you are a week before the October SAT. That's kind of crazy. So we're here to make sure that you don't feel too lost or you don't feel like you have to cancel your spot at the test center. What's the best way for you to study so that you can still walk in and get your money's worth on test day?
It happens. We're here to help you juice every single point that you can before the actual test day. So for that, this episode on the TheHagwon After Hours. Okay. So when it comes to cramming,
yes,
we've all been there. You've been there. I've been there.
Yes. Yeah. We're not proud of it.
Yeah. Is it a good thing to be? Is it a great thing? I don't think anybody is happy to be in the position of cramming. And anyone who says I work best when I haven't studied at all until the night before is either lying or delusional.
Yeah, we need to make it very clear that we do not advocate for cramming for the SAT.
No.
If you really haven't been able to study at all, you've never looked at a practice test before, you've never solved any of the digital SAT questions, whether the Blue Book app questions or the Khan Academy questions, you haven't looked at anything, we do not recommend you cram for a week and then going to the
We do not endorse
No,
that.
not at all.
No.
But we understand that there are a lot of students who are in a variety of places in their high school education.
The track meet, a math test.
Yeah.
Things add up.
Being sophomore year or senior year makes a huge difference as well. Depending on where you are, you might have studied a little bit before, but you haven't been studying intensely for this official standardized test that's coming up, and you need a last minute study plan to kind of get you through to testing. So that's what we're really going to talk about today. What's the best way to optimize the last week, maybe 5 days that you have before the Saturday test, how to best use that week to prepare.
We're going to mention SAT. This also applies to the ACT. The concepts might be a little different, but just standardized testing, how do you get through? Let's start with math.
Let's start with math because objectively, if you're cramming for a standardized test, math is the best place to start. Both the SAT and the ACT, we've talked about this before in our August review video as well, but they have a list of concepts that they can ask you. So if you go into any of the website of the standardized test, if you look at their math section, there's a really nice list with bullet points of all of the different concepts that they can test you. And they really won't ask you questions outside of those concepts. So if I'm a student, I'm looking to cram 5 days before the SAT, I'm going to kind of forego the most difficult math questions a little bit here. So like we talked about in the August SAT review video, those last 4 questions on Module 2 of math, I'm going to let that go. Just for anybody who's wondering, on the SAT math section, we have 22 questions, 2 modules, each 35 minutes. You get 35 minutes to solve each module. And usually the most difficult questions are going to be the last 4 to 5 questions on Module 2. If I'm cramming, I'm going to let those questions go. There's really not a high probability that I can teach myself the math that's going to be required to solve those questions now. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure 2 things. One, I'm going to make sure I'm really comfortable with all of the basic concepts across all 4 sections of math on the SAT. So in SAT specifically, there's 4 areas of math that are being tested. It's algebra, advanced math, which is all of your like quadratics, algebra 2 stuff, and your pre-calc stuff, geometry and trigonometry, and then the last section is problem solving and data analysis. So those are all of your like stats questions, box plots, scatter plots, line of best fits. Those are all that section. So I'm going to make sure that I'm able to kind of solve all of the basic questions across all 4 areas, and that I'm very familiar with the tools that SAT gives us. So there's 2 main tools on the math section of the SAT. One is using the Desmos calculator, and the second is using the reference sheet. So when I'm going to cram last minute for an exam, I want to make sure that I'm very comfortable with using the tools the test has given me to optimize test day performance. So even if you're very comfortable with the calculator you use at school, or maybe that you use to do your homework, if the SAT has given you the Desmos calculator, they've built this math section with the understanding that you have a super efficient, super fast, super high powered calculator right at your fingertips. So get very comfortable with writing in equations, doing simple math problems, and graphing on Desmos is the first place to kind of start if you're cramming. And make sure to get through all of the basic questions across all 4 areas. If you've taken an SAT or PSAT exam before, this would be a really great time to whip out your previous score report. Your score report should tell you if you are missing more questions in any of the 4 areas. This would be a really good time to kind of focus on the basic concepts in any such areas that you've struggled with before. If you have an idea of what you maybe need more practice in. So that's the best place to start with math.
And you told me that for people who are just starting out or just need to get that push in, math is the most improvable section?
Math is the most improvable section. And the reason we say that is the way you should be studying if you're cramming last minute is really focusing your energy on memorizing math concepts and equations.
So for example?
For example, things like not just understanding the standard quadratic formula, but knowing the vertex form of the quadratic formula, memorizing the formula for the equation of a circle, knowing how to find for arc length and degrees. So these are math concepts that we know the SAT tests. It's on their website. We know there's a standard formula for finding these things, but they're not going to be mentioned in a math question, nor are they on the reference sheet. So your job, if you're cramming for the math section, is to go through the questions, the basic level questions for all 4 areas, figure out those concepts, facts, or equations, maybe expressions that you haven't memorized yet, and spend this week doing that. Make sure you're in tip-top shape. With those questions, you can solve just by memorizing things. And really fortunately, math is a section where there's a lot of questions like that. You can get through a lot of that section just with rote memorization, just knowing what information to kind of pull out.
Just take the gimmies at the beginning of the section.
Exactly.
And you were telling me that for good math students, it's about not making mistakes.
For good math students, it's about being really efficient and very quick with those facts, with that knowledge, and 2, becoming very good with using the Desmos calculator so that you're not making stupid mistakes. The other thing is, if you get really quick with that basic knowledge we're talking about, if you're a very strong math student, you should get so quick that you shouldn't be making mistakes like reading the questions improperly, missing key words in the question. Maybe the question is not asking for the y-intercept, but the x-intercept. You should not be making mistakes like those if you get really quick at kind of taking out your math knowledge and getting really accurate with the Desmos calculator.
And then maybe you can take a shot at one of those questions at the back.
Right, then you'll actually get a good chance. You'll be able to sit down and kind of play around with the last 5 questions in Module 2. You might actually get some of those correct then.
And for poorer math students, those not as naturally inclined, bad with numbers, me, still hope because it's the most improvable section.
It is the most improvable section. The other thing is, if you get those basic questions down, you can get through most of the first module. You might even get the upper module for your second math module. It's really good practice and really good experience to be able to see what an upper module looks like and see how you do under that kind of stress, and just try out those questions as well. See how hard it gets, see what you really struggle with. Even if you choose not to keep that score for whatever reason, that's a really valuable experience to have as a student who's taking standardized tests.
Okay, start with math. Now there are 2 other sections. That's
Yes.
actually math sections you'll do first when you get in test day.
Reading, writing we'll do first on test day. So SAT, we'll start with the reading, writing section. Those are 27 questions each, 32 minutes each module. Then you'll get 1 10-minute break in between, and then you'll get your 2 math modules, which are, again, both 22 questions each and 35 minutes long.
So reading, writing.
Reading, writing with one section.
And we start with, and our explanation, or where we're going to start with, is writing.
Yes, we're going to start talking about writing, because writing is very similar with math in that it's kind of a formulaic group of, it's a group of very formulaic knowledge that you can memorize very last minute or in a short amount of time and still answer questions correctly. So writing is, it's really just a list of rules. There's not a whole lot there that they can give you on test day that we haven't seen before. If you've done any of the Blue Book questions, if you've looked at the Khan Academy stuff, if you look at our question bank, which we'll talk about very soon, there isn't anything on test day that's so different from those questions. So what you need to do if you're cramming last minute for writing is make sure two things. One, you're very familiar with the grammar rules that are going on in that section. You're not looking at a question, seeing the correct answer and going, why the heck is that the correct answer? You're not doing that for any of them. The second thing is you're not making any silly mistakes on the writing section. So this is, again, very similar to math, which is if you get very comfortable with the rules and the concepts in the writing question, you get very quick at solving them. You can afford yourself a little more time to read those questions and make sure you're not falling into any of the traps in the writing section. And the knowledge that is being tested in the writing section, those are 3 different types of question areas. It's form, structure, and sense, boundaries, and transition questions. Those are the 3 areas in writing. They're very simple, they're very formulaic, and they're very to the point. They're like math equations that you can just sit down and memorize. For example, one of the key or most often recurring writing questions we see is the comma however question. We see a variety, many different versions of the single question that's either a comma however colon or a colon however comma. There are so many variations of it, but it's the same question every single time. It's, you have a however between 2 sentences, where do you put which punctuation? So you're going to see it on test day. You already have that question in the Blue Book. If you memorize the rule you have to use to answer that question correctly, you can absolutely answer that question correctly on test day.
Small caveat thing, reading/writing, one section,
Yeah.
It won't delineate, it won't separate which ones are writing and reading, but you'll know because you've practiced and because there are a couple giveaways.
So the writing questions have a different stem. So the writing questions are going to ask you which of the following most logically completes the question in line with standard conventions of the English language, or asks you what is the most appropriate transition question. Those are the only 2 types of question stems you'll see on the writing section. You should expect writing as the second half of each reading, writing module. They will usually start around question 14, 15, or 16. That's usually where writing will start. So expect it to be the second half of the module, and you'll be able to tell based on the question stem.
Great. Now, reading.
Reading is my favorite section, but unfortunately for students who are cramming, this is really not a section that you can cram. The skill set that's being asked in reading is, unless you're a student who is a very avid reader and you have been for a very long time, it's not something that you're going to be able to pick up very quickly or come very naturally. You're going to have to spend a little bit of time understanding what each question type is asking you to do and where to find that information. However, and we are going to talk, if you check out the lightning round in our study plan, I talk about this a lot more in detail, but I like to divide up the reading questions into 2 big groups. One group are reading questions where the answer is given in the passage, and the other group are reading questions where the answer is obviously not in the passage. And you approach them in 2 very different ways. Some of them are going to require you to be more efficient readers of the passage. Some of them are going to ask you to be more effective readers at eliminating answer choices. So just getting very comfortable with figuring out which is which will help you more effectively work through the reading questions on test day. The other thing is make sure you have your basic vocabulary down. We've talked about this before, but there's no sure way of knowing what vocab you will get on test day. But there are some words or a kind of a level of difficulty of words where it's just good common sense to make sure you know these before you walk in on test day. You might not see them as an answer choice on a words and context or vocab question, but they're very likely to be used in any of the other reading questions. So it's just, there's a level of vocabulary that's just good sense for you to know and have under your belt for you to take your test.
And you've already touched upon it, but just knowing the software, knowing how it works, flagging questions, crossing them out, reviewing, going back, the calculator and all that, very important to have just the experience of taking a test, I think start to finish, or at least doing sections.
Right. Make sure, like Joon just said, make sure you're taking full use of all of the tools SAT gives you. Figure out what it makes you more time efficient. Some students really like using the elimination tool and being able to kind of hop back and forth between questions by using the flag function and the navigation tools. Some of you might not. It's really important, especially if you're cramming, to figure out what kind of test day skill is going to be the most beneficial for you. And there's also different groups of question types that just make sense to study together. Just for example, I really like having in the reading section studying the main idea questions, the detail questions, and the cross-text questions together. Because even though there are 3 different question types, they're really asking you the same thing, which is there's one part of this question that I want you to look at. I want you to find that information in the text for me. All 3 questions are really asking you to do that one core skill. So part of our study plan is that those questions are grouped together so you're working on one core skill set at a time. You're not getting confused and you're getting really good at that one thing.
You don't want to waste any time on test day.
Nope.
And you also don't want to waste any time between now and test day.
Exactly.
And so the best way we can efficiently study for it is with the product.
The lightning round.
The lightning round.
The lightning round.
So what does it offer?
So the lightning round is what we're calling, it's a 5-day study plan right before your SAT. We recommend you give yourself a week to do all 5 days because let's be honest, you're not going to do all 5 days every single day. So give yourself a little bit of buffer time. But it's a 5-day study plan. It comes with a full-length, brand new digital SAT test. So this is a totally different exam exclusive to the lightning round. It's different from all of the tests that are already on our website.
So if you've already been studying for a long time, good way to shock the muscles.
Yeah.
See something new.
Something brand new for you to try out.
Just reassure that you know the concepts.
Right.
Just another way to test, another rep.
Right. But we also know that, like we've been talking about, if you're looking at a short period of time, it's not great for you to keep doing full tests again and again and again. So with the lightning round, we're launching a brand new feature on our website, which is TheHagwon's new question bank. Ooh. And so the question bank is going to operate like a lot of other question banks you've seen probably on different websites, where it's a whole question bank. It has every single question type that is being asked on the reading and writing and math sections. You're going to be able to select which question types you want to study, and you're going to be able to repeatedly solve the same questions again and again. You can choose to do how many question types at any sitting. It's entirely customizable. We've made it so that it's the best kind of self-paced study guide or self-paced study buddy. With the lightning round, however, like I've said, there's the lesson plan. So if you follow the lesson plan on our website, you're going to see that every single day there's a grouping of the question bank questions that I think work really well together. It makes sense to study together. It's really like a doable bite-sized amount every day. You're not solving like 200 questions a day, but it's a very doable group each day. Make sure you're staying on your toes, you're getting good review in, you have enough questions to figure out what you need to work on, and you have a chance to kind of improve on those questions as well.
Yeah, Deanna talking about drilling those basic concepts, that's what the question bank is for.
Right.
But also, if you were a little confused about that high level of vocabulary that's good to know on test, well,
I have made a brand new vocabulary lightning round edition. And if you're familiar with our vocabulary concepts or our vocabulary chapters before, there are 20 long chapters. They're super in-depth. They're very well-made flashcards with a lot of information to help you understand beyond just the definition of the word, but really understand usage and tone, which is really what you need to know for test day and to answer the words and context questions correctly on the SAT. I know that there are a lot of words on the regular vocabulary, and if we're cramming, we just don't have time to go through all of those words. So I've made a brand new set of 100 selected essential digital SAT words. Each day, you're going to be asked to just memorize 25 words. I think very doable. By the end of the week, you should know 100 essential SAT words right before test day.
So all this and for how much?
$16 for 1,600 points.
That was intentional?
Yeah, it was intentional.
Right.
It's a lucky number. Lucky price for a lucky score.
Really affordable. You get a lot of tools right off the bat.
Yeah.
And plus that, if you need a little more help, if you need a one-on-one review, if you want to think about some of the questions, talk about them, know why you're wrong, the concept, the question type.
So for the entire time the lightning round is open and available for students starting the release day until the day of the October SAT. I'm going to be available through our Discord server to personally answer any questions you have on any of the content on the lightning round, whether it be the vocabulary content, whether it be any questions on the question bank, or anything that's part of our full-length test. I'm going to personally be available to answer any questions across all of the different sections. And if you also need any sort of advice for test day in general or test taking in general, I would be more than happy to kind of sit down and talk. And so I'm going to be available via our Discord server for the entire time that Lightning Round is live.
Won't be your first rodeo helping students get past that finish line in a short amount of time.
No, not at all. We see it often. Definitely, stay hopeful. We know that it's maybe not ideal, but you can definitely get a lot done in this last stretch before the official SAT. We really, really hope that this brand new lightning round will be a super effective way for you to build confidence and get ready for test day and walk in not feeling so nervous and unprepared.
So $16, you get a 5-day detailed study plan, everything you need to do. You get a vocab question bank. You get the question bank itself, the drill. You get
a full-length test.
All that, link in the description. You can press the Discord server. It's a little pop-up there in the bottom right. You should be able to get there.
Yep.
Ask any questions. We'll respond pretty quickly. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Good luck.
Good luck.
And we can help you.
And we'll be here. We'll be back for the October SAT.
Absolutely.
We'll be back.
We'll be back. Don't
we'll
worry.
be here again.
So yeah, have fun. Hopefully you don't need this, but
if you do,
if you do,
happy studying.
see you then.